Hi, this is Bert Larson again, and I do have a lot of hope that people listen to me. I don't have a lot of really detailed knowledge about what's going on in Iran or really in politics. I'm not an analyst or anything like that, but I think what really sets me apart is I'm willing to confess my own sins, and um, I found that when I do that, people tend to forgive me, and they also are interested in what I have to say. When we say we're right and someone else is wrong, then people may listen, but they know it's a divisive kind of language. And I have in my past video, I did talk some about other people, and I hope I didn't do that in too egregious a way. But um, when I was 19, I had just been off of psych medicine, lithium, and I was in America again. I had been in Japan, and one day I couldn't feel my legs, and I think that might have been a withdrawal effect. I don't know for sure, but I couldn't feel my legs, and I thought that was somehow it was kind of a metaphysical thing for me. I thought that somehow I couldn't be trusted because I couldn't connect with my body or something. But I think really it was because I just turned an adult, and I saw that I could be dangerous. I saw that adult men, can have, you know, tendencies where they could actually do something violent or something like that, and so I ended up going into the mental hospital. I ended up in the jail for pitching a police officer, and then they said to be expunged, I had to go to the mental hospital. I got on medicine, and so I spent this my from 19 until just a few years ago really struggling with this almost constantly. Could I be a violent person? Could I, I would have violent thoughts about people around me. I was always struggling with it. People that I loved, people that were very nice to me, and the medicine helped, and I also really struggled really hard to change, not maybe not change, but understand myself, understand what it was to be an adult. I still don't feel like an adult that much, um, but anyway, when I hear about wars and people saying, well, these other people are extremists or they're terrorists or they're violent, um, I often wonder, how do we see ourselves? If we're over there bombing Iran, if we're all up in arms about people that we think are bad, Democrats, Republicans, things like that, um, have we analyzed ourselves? Or do we know our own tendencies? I mean, um, I just listened to a video, a YouTube video about a man that had been Iranian, was born in Iran, was Iranian, and converted to Christianity. And he felt that a lot of Iranians were ripe, he said, for converting to Christianity. He said that in the past, the times of the kings like Xerxes and Darius, and Cyrus, that the Persians were actually for the Jews and weren't really Arabians like a lot of the Muslims. They were actually forced to be Muslim, and so he thought that the people of Iran would be able to rise up and have regime change, and become more of a Western country like they were under the Shah. And I hope that's true. I do value democracy, and I am a Christian. Um, but I also see the point of other religions. I don't just see Christianity. Like, I understand a Persian might not really be aligned with Islam, But for a Muslim that is devout, I think that they see the Jews in a different way. So I've been fasting for Ramadan, not perfectly. I do eat sometimes when I'm supposed to, but I want to understand the Arabic and the Muslim point of view, and I also want to become a Muslim. I feel like I can become a member of all the religions of the world, which I see is very valuable. I think that the tradition they have and the obvious alignment with the teachings of many, many people around the world make it seem that it'd be a valuable thing. And I met a lot of Muslims that I thought were very nice people, very interested in following God, and of course submitting to God, which is a little different than Christians see it. We see him as a loving father. They see him as more of a master. I think that goes back to how Ishmael versus Isaac were treated by Abraham. Isaac was a chosen son according to the Bible, and I think since Ishmael was cast out, it's debated by Muslim people, but I think that they have a different take on fathers and on God because of that. But anyway, I have prayed like a Muslim before as well. I didn't pray 5 times a day, and I didn't pray that long. I felt like I should have, but when I pray like that, I get the spirit to me of a Muslim person, and I feel like I should challenge the Jews. In a way, I kind of am a Jew, I think, because in our church we talk about being part of the tribe of Israel, and I believe I'm part of the tribe of Ephraim, which is actually the firstborn son according to the Bible, even though it's like the second to last. But I really respect the Jews as well. I mean, to me, they're the fathers and mothers of Christ, and I feel like with the Holocaust and the other things they've been through in their history, they've been learning to suffer like Christ, and they are very much tied to Christ, and so I really honor them. But I also see the Muslims being willing to be violent against the Jews because they understand in their hearts that they were the chosen people, and they say, okay, if you were the chosen people by God, you should be strong. And it's okay if we harm your bodies because your spirit should be strong enough that you can handle it and still be able to claim relationship to Christ and that you are really the chosen people. And I feel that when I pray as like a Muslim, that they should be strong, and if I hurt them, that God would understand. That's how I feel. And that's just physically hurting people, which not just, but in Christianity we talk about spiritual death being much more important than physical death. And do I want to die? No, but I feel like as the firstborn son of Jacob, in a way, tribe of Ephraim, I feel like I'll just never be hurt. I feel like even when I say divisive, seemingly extreme things like this, that since I am honest and since I do care about everyone and I want to follow God, and people understand, whereas with a Jew or an Arab, they fight each other like cats and dogs, and I fear they do see each other's point of view, but they also see the negative side of it. Like, the Jews are very upset that the Arabs would attack them, and the Arabs are very set on attacking them. That's what they feel that their almost duty to God is, and so that I fear that fight will not easily end, never until Christ comes again and stops it, I think. But but in my last video I talked about how men in general were pedophiles, and maybe that was a little bit incorrect. I mean, I've identified with that a lot because of my past. When I was getting divorced, before I was getting divorced, I told my ex-wife that I had lust for our daughter, and it was a lot of fear about having lusts, but um, there was something in me that valued my daughter over my wife. I loved her more, and that still kind of bothers me. I feel like Sarah will understand me much better than Stephanie, and um, is in many ways a better person. I guess you can't say someone's better than someone, but more intelligent, more caring, more loving, just in all ways, in my understanding, better. And that actually didn't end our marriage. Stephanie was still willing to work with me. She said, I'll still be married to you. And it was really amazing. Um, but then I told her I had lust for our son, and that pretty much clinched it, which is it's pretty extreme. But that again was more fear of having lusts. Which I've had thoughts about young boys that are inappropriate before, but more after that happened, I just got really worried about everything, and I don't know, just metastasized into something worse. But other people haven't had that experience. I'm sure it's pretty, individual to me. And so when I generalize to all of the men, I do believe it, but I believe we all have that tendency as men. But other men haven't been divorced over this kind of thing. They haven't told this kind of thing to their ex-wives. They probably haven't even thought it or felt it like I have. And it's just been a big fear and worry for me. Like, just kind of like being fearful and worrying that I might hurt someone. So I think we're all the same in a way, but I'm very different in a way. And I don't want to judge other people like I may have sounded like I was doing, or judge myself. I don't think I'm a bad person because I have these tendencies. I think this is just part of who I am and something to be overcome, or at least watched and, taken seriously, which I see a psychiatrist and all that. But to me, having this experience of really worrying about these things, I really do worry that we are willing to kill people and bomb people, and somehow we think that's going to be the beginning of peace, the beginning of people loving America more, or, at least rising up and trying to join America. I don't think that's the way to have peace. I think the way to have peace is to work with the people in charge and to acknowledge that they do have the right to lead, since that's what their country is allowed, and to really work with everyone. Well, what could happen, I think, is if we worked with people like Khomeini or other leaders, like leader of North Korea, if we showed them that we did care about them as people, if we prayed for them, right? We said, okay, here's our enemy. How do we resolve this? Well, Christ said we love our enemies first of all. So we love Khomeini. How do we love Khomeini? Well, to me, it's understanding. Other people would see it other ways, but maybe have compassion on him. Here he was doing what he thought was right, in my opinion. He was trying to take control of Iran by the Iranians from the Shah, who was wasting their money, in my opinion. And see his point. And that's how I would love him. But other people might just have compassion on him. Here he is, trying to lead a country and doing what he can, and maybe he doesn't always feel happy. Maybe he doesn't always understand what he's doing. Maybe he doesn't always feel like the Iranian people love him or that they appreciate him. I don't know how you love him, but you start there, and then you say, okay, well, we have compassion on you. We understand you in some way, and so how can we reach out to you in that spirit of love, and we can pray for you. We can do good to you, do good to those that hate you. Right? That's what the man in the Christian, the man that was Persian that became Christian. That's what he said. I read that and I thought there's a very different God than I was taught as a Muslim, and so we follow Christ, right? That's what he was impressed with in our religion, and so we love our enemies, we do good to those that hate us, and we pray for those that despitefully use and persecute us. And if we do those things, what happens? Well, we have peace because the other person feels understood, they feel like we're helping them, and then they can loosen up and say, okay, maybe we don't need to hate Americans, maybe we don't need to fight the Israelis, maybe we can all kind of live together, and instead of having a war where you try to have regime change, which causes a lot of destabilization. People die. Some people are very upset. Some people may see it as liberation, but how does it happen? We don't know. Whereas if we work with people where they are and take time to understand and take time to feel and understand they are people like us, even though they do things that we didn't understand at first, Can we understand that Khomeini didn't like the Shah, that, he reverted to Islam because that was a way of, I don't know what he thought, but maybe he just loved Islam, but, this war, I really think it's a bad idea. I really do. It's not Christian to me. It's not following God. It's just thinking you're powerful and you can do something by hurting people. And I wish we'd have a different idea. As someone that struggled with that a lot, I've struggled with it a lot. I thought I might be violent to my own family. Some of it's been because of medicine I've taken wrong or stuff like that, but for me, it's been very difficult, and I've really, because of it, I've thought how horrible it would be to act on these impulses in any way, and I'd rather be shot than shoot someone. I really would. I'd rather my kids be killed than some kid in Iran be hurt. I would prefer that. And my faith is that my kids will go to heaven and they'll be fine. And yet, whereas when we fight each other on this world, and it just becomes this bigger conflict, then real feelings are hurt and real divisions arise that just keep us from being saved. And when we have this attitude, to me, we're not saved. We're living in hell, and it just doesn't get better by fighting. It gets better by releasing your grip, releasing your power, and being humble and saying, "What did I do wrong?" And we can still do that, but it's getting harder. Iran, I'm sure they'll still try to develop nuclear weapons. They'll put it farther underground. It will be harder to detect, and just get better at doing that. And eventually, I'm afraid we'll be faced with an Iran that is very angry and may have some ability to act on it even more. And I feel for them. I feel for the future world. I feel for the young people that have to deal with this world. And I hope that they at least can start to follow Christ and other religions that are good.